are we going to jump right into it, Vikram?
Absolutely. We always jump
I'll
right
be
into it. But
Lily.
no. Let me first tell her that, look, because of Tabitha, we had that session on neurodiversity and mediation, and I got a very good lesson in that. Do not be abrupt. The person with people with certain, okay, maybe the autistic people, Martha was there. She's autistic. Very nicely, she told me that, look, we want to know what's happening. We don't, I mean, all this stuff, because I just start off, okay, now what are we talking about kind of thing. So now it's a little structured approach. It takes me 1 minute to talk about the conference, and then we talk about the topic. But Tabitha wants to run away. So Tabitha, you want to stay or you want to go?
I want to hear Lily, but I was just writing, I have to go. I have some family obligations. It's Saturday. It's always a bit crowded here. So thank you. And I'll be listening to you, Lily, on YouTube.
Perfect.
Great.
So thank you,
Nice to
Tabitha, for
meet you.
coming in, and we'll see you in other sessions. Please drop in for the sessions.
Bye-bye.
Bye. So Lily, what I'm going to do is, give me 1 second to put up the conference thing. That's important. And then, so basically what are we doing? Lily, I'll tell you what we're going to do. It's going to be an interesting thing, which I tried in the last session also. The person who was the panelist, I told that person to talk about the conference. So let me just put up the poster of the conference, and you are going to tell us about the conference, right?
That's very interesting. Okay.
Yeah, so this is what it is. From here, whatever you want to tell us about it, please.
Okay, so Vikram has created this wonderful conference, the World Mediators Conference, and it started in May and we're going through the end of June. And it's a few times a week, and different speakers from all over the world are bringing topics that they're interested in, and we're discussing those. And it's been super fun and interesting and enlightening to meet all these different people. Many I found have been lawyers that grew tired of the legal system and sort of the negativity that occurs there, and they became mediators. So there's professional mediators all over the world trying to help solve conflicts and disputes. So I'm fascinated by this because I believe this is the answer to our personal and global problems. There you go.
Great, Lily. That's and from now on, I'm never going to talk about it. We'll ask you to come in and talk about the conference. I would not have been able to say it better. So thank you very much. So basically, all these, there is on my posts, there is the schedule. So please have a look at the schedule. All links to the YouTube links, and you go to the YouTube channel. All the videos are there, recordings are there. And how do you find it? Just search Mediator Vikram on YouTube. You'll find the channel, and otherwise mediatorvikram.com. So that's the additional thing that I can put in. So today's topic, Lily has suggested the topic ego and mediation. So Lily, your topic, your show. I am a spectator. Bring me in whenever you want to bring me in. So please, you have to tell us about yourself, and then we go into the topic.
Okay, so as I've said before, I'm not a mediator in the professional world, but I have the mediator mindset that Vikram talks about, which is basically, I'm a person that I think probably my best quality is my compassion, and I feel the suffering of others because I've suffered, and I want to bring people together to live peacefully and to feel connected. And lots of us don't feel connected. And so thank you, Vikram, for doing this, because as I've told you, this whole forum helps me feel more connected because I'm finding like-minded people that are also interested in learning to help us communicate better so that we can resolve our issues and be more connected. So I'm excited about all that. I brought up the topic of ego because I think, well, I want to read a definition, which is just so short. Ego is a person's sense of self or self-importance. And so ego doesn't have to be a bad thing, but it can be a bad thing. So I'm not going to go into any sort of Freudian psychological things about ego, simply how I see that our ego works in my own personal life and the lives of those around me. And I write about this in my book, The Fork Trail Guide. I have an entire chapter, and I call it the insecure ego. So the way this relates to mediation is mediators are bringing at least two people, maybe more people if it's a family or even a work setting. They're entering that room, and they are there's some problem or problems occurring between the people, and their job is, as far as I understand it, is to listen to the different people's feelings and needs and try to help them hear each other's feelings and needs so that they can really, in the end, find a way to meet those needs for some sort of a resolution for whatever the problem is. But when you have individuals, you obviously have an ego aspect. And so the mediator needs to be really aware of what possible insecure egos these people are bringing to the mediator table, because that's going to influence the way the mediation goes. And so when I talk about insecurity, I mean that a person that doesn't have a sense of their intrinsic worth is not going to probably be open to another person's view. And so they're going to be closed and they're going to have a need to be right. That the insecure ego wants to be right. So that's what I think a mediator needs to be aware of, and they need to sort of deal at that level. And I am curious, I wish that we had other mediators sitting in on this, because I'm very curious how they deal with this. Andrea O'Neill from Ireland talked a few days ago when I joined your meeting on that. She talked about before she does a mediation with either two people or a group of people, she does a pre-mediation, which I had never even heard of before. And that's, I don't know if all mediators do that or some, but what a great idea. So she meets with the individuals and sees where they're at, which I think is wonderful, because then she can get a feel of, does this person have an insecure ego problem? And is that going to be a roadblock to us moving forward in finding a resolution? So I really liked that. I know, Vikram, you like people to share personal stories or experiences, and I love stories. So I do have a couple that I wanted to share about experiences in my life where everything got shut down because, as I said, I feel that the person had this insecure ego problem. And so one was, I have a relative, a niece that came to me. She was having problems with one of my siblings, and they had come to me too. I had spoken to both of them for hours, and it wasn't going well. There had been some very big fights, and the niece and I spoke, and she said she'd like to have a mediator meet with her parent and try to hear both sides and sort of come to a place where they could feel connected again, because they were very disconnected. I thought that was great because I'm all about mediation. When I met with my sibling, this is what they said. They looked straight at me and they said, I don't need a mediator. I will be the mediator. I was in law enforcement for 30 years. I know how to do this. And I didn't even know what to say, because to me, that was his insecure ego completely flaring up and wanting to, I hate to say this, but in the end, his end goal, they talk about that in mediation. What's the end outcome or goal that you're wanting? He just wanted his daughter to act a certain way, to behave a certain way, to do certain things the way he thinks that they should be done. She's an adult, a 40-year-old adult. That's not really going to happen. So I felt very sad because I felt they weren't going to reach a connection. And the other thing is, again, I'd be curious what mediators say, but I think when you have a major life issue with another person, you do need an outside, unbiased ear, heart, soul, mind to listen to both parties. So I would think most mediators, if they were having a problem with their spouse or their child that was very serious, they wouldn't expect, or maybe they would try at first to resolve it. They might do that because they have the skills, but if they weren't unable to, they would be very open to having an outside mediator help them. You have any thoughts on this, Vikram?
Well, I've been talking about this, that to be able to find people, families, to be able to find people within the family who have that mindset, like you were chosen by the niece. So the niece said she looks at you from that perspective. So if first of all, those people can be identified. And I'm saying bias is not an issue with me. You might have biases, but can you be impartial in that kind of a situation? So to find those impartial people is the first thing that we need. And I feel that either as I mean, you have individuals who will not go through the process because they think that they know how to handle it. So that part of it, how do you explain to them? I mean, to be able to understand that, look, this is something that you need an outsider to come in. So bringing an outsider into a dispute, in this case, a conflict, but for me, I'm focused on disputes. So bring an outsider in disputes, that is where the whole, I think, challenge lies. That to be able to, I call those peacemakers. We were just having a discussion with Abita also about with her son. So I was asking him, someone in your school who helps people, who helps your friends to resolve disputes or fights. So he spoke about one person. So I said, what does that person do? So he says, look, he tells them not to fight. So I said, nice, we need those people, those peacemakers. But what about those people who can actually sit and understand the issue and to be able to help them resolve it within themselves? So then he understood that part, and he was able to some way bring himself in, that he does one part of it. So first of all, the idea of mediation, that word is not what people understand maybe. So to be able to bring in that aspect, that this person is going beyond, has a skill beyond just telling you to sit together and talk about it, brings a certain skill into the picture. So that skill to be recognized and people to appreciate it, how is that going to happen? And that's going to be only going to happen when they can connect with someone in their family or in their community whom they look at from that perspective. I don't know if that's the answer you were looking at. I don't know whether I went into a totally different direction, but I mean, you can tell me. We can further talk about it, but
I think that that's super important. My niece did ask if I would do it, but I didn't feel that that would be a good idea, because I didn't feel that I had enough skills, and then I didn't want to create a more disconnection with my sibling. So that's why I chose not to do that. But there were, I mean, we do have mediators in our area, and that would have certain, that I know personally, that I've worked with personally, that would have been great. But you have to have both people wanting to do that. And then back to this whole ego thing. I mean, if you're not wanting to, be open to somebody listening to you and the person you're having a dispute with, then that's a problem right there. And that's an ego problem. There was this Irish poet, John O'Donoghue, and he said the ego is the false self born out of fear and defensiveness. So that's what I mean. If you feel insecure and you come into a mediation, you're just going to be defensive. And again, I'm very curious about how mediators deal with that. Again, Andrea said that when she does the pre-mediation, she's seeing where the person's at and how open they are. And that's all great. But once you're in the mediation and there's sort of this idea and this idea, and then these defensive reactions start happening, I really want to know how the mediators are able to deal with that. I suppose that they listen to whatever's happening to that person, and finding out what they need.
When we were talking to Andrea, I told you the same thing, that listen to your heart. Your heart will take you wherever it has to take you. There is no concept of someone else's experience that can help you, because the way you would handle it is, of course, the whole aspect of it being a unique thing, those people and those egos being unique. I keep talking about, obviously, the parties being unique and the dispute being unique and the mediator being unique. That combination by itself is so unique. To even say how you're going to handle it, you never know. So you bring in whatever from your heart and soul and spirituality, what you bring in. So that is one thing. But now the egos are unique. So how those egos are going to react to what you say, how you say it. If I say something to someone, there is the way I conduct myself, or my tone, or whatever else. It's my gray hair. You don't know what is working in what situation. So you will never be able to duplicate someone else. So finally, it's about you. So I don't think we should even look at this aspect as to how someone else would do it. I think you know best. And you know that. It's just that for you to have that confidence in yourself. That's the only thing. So if you're looking out for, okay, how should I do this? Should I check with someone how I should handle this? It's not going to move forward, because it's a moment to moment thing. And in that moment, you have to take a certain, it could be one word you might use. It might be a gesture you might use, a certain tone of your voice you might use. But it have to come from within at that moment, and it'll have to come out, because that's the way the next direction of that whole process will go. And then from there, the next moment, that process will go further. So each little thing of yours, it's just the way you might move your head can change things. You don't know how the other person is going to react. What if you talk about impartiality? How is if you are looking at parties, they're also looking at you. So at every moment of time, each person is looking at each other, and each reaction, even your head moving up and down, gives some who you don't know who's taking what message from it. So it's a it's something which I'm saying that you can't even at all be able to tell someone what to do at all. It's there. That's why I keep talking about the mediator mindset and all these elements that go into it, because you're in that moment. You're nowhere else. You don't have time to bring in from any other experience. Also, whatever has been processed and is in your subconscious, it'll take you forward. It cannot be, you don't have a split second to start thinking about the situation and how I'm going to react, because that moment has then passed, and that was the moment that you had to take it forward. So you have everything in you. Just be in that moment and let the process happen on an organic basis, without you having to keep processing. And I don't know whether you've heard me talk about the quantum computer, that you have a quantum computer there which is doing its processing. It's based on your experiences, and of course that mindset that you have, that mediator mindset. So only then that quantum computer with that mindset is processing and giving you an output at every moment. So you don't have to think. And if you think, what you are doing is you're taking an output of a quantum computer and sitting with your calculator and checking the calculation. You'll never be able to do it. So if the processing is happening, output comes, let it go. The subconscious will pick up everything else around it. That one person sitting there, of course, now we are on screens. On one screen, someone reacting in a certain way in terms of the way expression that they used, to another person saying something in a certain way. It's processing everything. It'll give you an output based on that. And that is the aspect of this process which maybe people don't understand. And then that's where then the whole concept of that training and all, which I keep talking about, where I have issues with, is because that skill, that hardware that you have, we've got it with you. So it's all those elements of heart, soul, spirituality, and the hardware, and the processing, and being in that moment, everything together. Not the direction that you wanted it to go to, but this is it.
No, but I liked what you said. You used the word organic. So yes, I see what you're saying, that it's sort of, you're in a flow and you're letting it be what it is. And it sounds like you're saying that you sort of already have within you, if you have a mediator mindset, this ability to hear what people are saying, be open to what people are saying, reflect back what people are saying, so that there's a new awareness that can happen. I did want to turn toward, I know that mediators are often listening when they're in a mediation to the positions of the two parties, because that can be something where the insecure ego does hang on to their position, and the mediator wants to get towards needs that can actually be met rather than positions. So I wanted to say that in my book, The Fork Trail Guide, I talk about funnel focus. So I have this little funnel right here. So when people go into a mediation, I feel that they have this. So if you take this and you hold it toward your eye, you can see very, very little out in front of you. It's a very small perspective. Lots of times when people go into a mediation, that's what's happening. That's the insecure ego I'm talking about, because they need to be right. If you turn it around, you can see more. And this is the process, I think, that the mediator tries to go through, taking them from a very limited view to see maybe what the other person is thinking, feeling, believing, needing. But the goal would be to set this thing completely aside to see everything that's going on with themselves and with the other person, so that then they can have the awareness of, oh, I have my position and my needs, and they have their position and their needs. And how can we come together and possibly leave the room where both people feel that their needs are met to some degree? So the mediator has a big job in shifting them from having what I'm going to call the funnel focus, which is the insecure ego that needs to be right, and setting that down and being willing to be open and listen and hear what's really going on. So that's a big job that a mediator has. Back to what you were saying with this organic sort of natural process that, frankly, no, I don't have a lot of confidence in. I know I have a mediator mindset, but I don't have a lot of confidence in being able to sort of bring that part of me up. So my plan, because these talks have been so inspirational to me, is to go back to the original company that I worked with or for, really, and trained with, and to observe. I mean, I can go in and I can observe these. I know you probably.
Look, I tell you, I had today only one of the sessions I was talking about this, that because of the fact that this whole technical and other aspects of mediation, which are theoretical and everything, is discussed in what we call training. So because of that, people with that natural ability that you have, they lose that confidence in themselves. They think that this is something else that they have to see and then be able to pick up from. But if you are just yourself, that's it. You don't have to do anything else. You just be yourself. And be in that moment, you will see that you will be able to bring that change around you with whatever dispute or conflict comes to you for resolution. Just don't have to watch anyone. You don't have to look anywhere, nothing. You have it all in you. It's just a matter of you having confidence in yourself, and people lose that confidence. And I know that because I talk to a lot of people about this, and they've gone and sat in some training and suddenly they had everything going for them and they started questioning themselves because this was not because obviously someone else is telling them based on their experience, and there's some theory has been developed there. But this person could have been the best natural mediator in the world. But then you want to put this person into a box. So Lily, please don't ever think that. Luckily, you're also in a country where you can be a mediator without any qualification outside the court system. Of course, court system, they can do what they want. We're not interested in them. But outside that, you're in a country where you can practice as that. So that is the way, of course, your niece came to you. Similarly, other people, when you put the word out that, okay, this is what I'm doing, they will themselves, someone to come to you, a niece to come to you, maybe because she's looked at your qualities, your conduct, the way the person that you are. So that is what is something that we need to put out there, that whom are you comfortable with? Go to that person. It is not a matter of anyone having to even say that they're a mediator. You will ask, you will identify them, you will use them, you will bring them into the whole thing. Only thing is that the peacemaker part of it, that of course reaching out to the other side and to be able to bring them on the table, that is something which was also a skill. So does every mediator have that skill? We don't know. So that's why we have to have peacemakers, whom I call peacemakers. People can have whatever understanding of peacemakers they have. For me, that peacemaker is the one who brings the other party into that whole process, and of course helps identify mediators who parties can be introduced to if they trust them, bring them in. And Lily, why are we going in that direction? This is supposed to be about the ego. What about the ego?
Well, I think it's interesting. It sounds like you were saying, and this will get back to the ego, that I don't need to go observe any mediation, that actually, then I'll be sitting there comparing myself, which then, if that's true, my insecure ego would pop up and I would say, oh, I'm not doing it right. And I don't know how to do it. And they're really good at it. And I'm going to be really bad at it. So that's very interesting that you bring that up. And that I could see that I would go that way. So in a lot of ways, it seems like you're talking about, as far as the mediator mindset and the organic process, that for me, this goes back to sort of the mindfulness that I practice, where I would be very in tune to myself and what's going on with me, which allows me to then be very in tune to others and what's going on with them. And this is the opposite of the insecure ego. And this is where there's more curiosity and observation and sort of what I would say is I'm coming from a very calm, centered place. And then I can hear what other people are saying much more clearly without my judgments on them. And so I like that. I will certainly spend time thinking about that, because I'm very much all about mindfulness and being more aware. And so I can practice that in this concept of mediating, and we wouldn't even have to say that word. We could just say, being with people and finding ways to connect with them and helping them connect with each other. All of that.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
But I'm saying that you don't even have to think. Don't think.
Yeah.
Just let it flow. Let it flow. You said I'll think about. No, not required. No internal processing required. It's all there. Everything is there. It just has to be put out there and to be used, and let people, they will themselves bring you in. But you have to first talk about your ego. The mediator's ego is also what we have to look at, and then we look at the party's egos. Yes. So mediator's ego.
Yeah. So see, again, I would be so curious to see what mediators who are mediating on a regular basis, what they say about that, because at any given moment in time, we're all in a certain space in our heads and minds and hearts and all this stuff. And so the mediator will walk into the door with whatever's happened before they walked into the door. And that can be a lot of stuff. I mean, maybe they had an argument with their own spouse that morning, or their child, or something else is going on. And so they're not in what I would call a centered, calm place. And so their own ego could possibly be a roadblock to whatever they're mediating. So yeah, you have the mediator's ego, and you have whoever's all being mediated.
Well, Lily, but we have to then also discuss that the person with the mediator mindset, does that person have that ego, which can come in the way?
Well, I think absolutely. I mean, we're emotional beings, and our feelings change all the time, and certainly we can. I mean, let's just theorize here. Does every mediator on the planet always feel calm and ready to be open and listen? I'm sure that's absolutely not true.
We are going the other way around, Lily. We're finding those people who can do that. Those are the people with the mediator mindset.
Yes, I'm just saying we're human beings, and so we're not always going to have a mediator.
The world
mindset.
doesn't think you're human beings. They think you have risen up there, so you don't even need any basic livelihood. Nothing. You need nothing. You have to be doing this as a activity to help the world and bring peace. The world doesn't think that you are normal human beings. That's the way I keep talking about the remuneration to mediators and how free and everything is used. No, but I think we have to discuss this part, because it's important in terms of the mediator mindset, the ego aspect of the mediator, because one is to say that you are in that moment, and in that moment you keep it aside. The other is, does that person with a mediator mindset not have it, which actually can affect the process? The good part of it, wherever the good part of ego comes in, that's a different aspect. But the negative part of ego, which can affect the process, does that exist in the person, or the person has to keep it aside? What would you think?
Well, I think that again, if we sort of theorize but think about a real life situation, a mediator could be mediating a situation where a button of theirs is pushed, something said which affects them with some issue they had. I mean, an example would be maybe they're mediating a couple that is having problems but wants to stay together, and one of the couple A says something that the mediator personally remembers experiencing themselves. Well, that's going to flare up things for them. So obviously a mediator needs to be very aware of these, but I'm sure that that in that moment, it might be very hard to stop all the flooding emotions that they have. So I think they have to really work on that.
Again, we'll have to go back. Really, we'll have to go back into it. That person with the mediator's mindset, does that person need to work on it, or the person has already worked on it? Look, but
No,
I'm telling you, yeah. No.
I think that in any given moment, we all have our buttons and we all have things that we respond to in a knee-jerk sort of reactionary way. And that certainly can happen anytime. But again, this is about being mindful and aware and observing. And then when you notice it, you can then sort of go, okay, I need to set that aside right now. And I need to come back and focus on what's going on right here. Everything that I've learned in the trainings that you don't like and my personal life, it's like I'm bringing my judgments everywhere I go, and they're not helpful. And so I try to be aware of those judgments and take them and set them aside, which I think is absolutely what a mediator does. When a mediator goes into a mediation, their whole point is to listen, observe, reflect. It's not to say, I think you should do this and you should do that and you should stop this. I mean, those are judgments. You don't do that at all. You're setting your judgments aside. So I think it's an ongoing, personally, I think it's an ongoing thing that every mediator needs to do. And probably, in all honesty, the more aware a person is, the better they probably are at this. I mean, if a button's pushed, they probably can immediately notice it and take a deep breath and let it go. But the less aware a person is, then that whole moment can take over and they can have a lot of negative emotions going on. So I would say a well-practiced mediator that's not happening to as much.
Because I'm going beyond the well-practiced. I'm saying that that's the foundation. So if it is something that you can be in that moment and not bring in all these elements of your life or your experiences, and that starts with the first thing, that this is a unique situation that you are in. This has not happened before ever in this world. Just that is the main thing. This is so unique that every little aspect of it, two individuals interacting with each other, to say that this is now a duplication of something else, it's not going to happen. It is going to be unique. So be able to live in that kind of thing. So it's not that if one little fact of it is connected to some fact that you have seen in your life, it doesn't mean that the entire thing that thread will go throughout the entire that particular conflict, dispute, or issue. So I think that those are things I think you have to be able to work on and be in that moment totally.
I absolutely love that you said that, because that's about what everyone's talking about now, right? Being in the moment. And yes, every single experience is absolutely brand new, but our old insecure ego will respond because that's what we do. But that isn't what we want to do. That's not what I want to do. So absolutely, it's about what I would do is take the deep breath and come back to the moment and realize this isn't about me or something in the past. We're here right now, looking at this thing right now. It's fresh and new. And then where are we going to go from there? So that's really fabulous to me that you brought the point so clearly to my mind, that we're right here, right now with these individuals in this moment. And so I have to be honest, that the reason I did not want to participate with my relatives in this mediation was I felt I really wouldn't be able to. If one of them said something and I felt it was offending the other one, I would want to race to protect them or whatever. I felt that was going to be a problem. I was too personally involved to do that. So I didn't feel I was at the point where I could be very completely objective. So that's why I declined.
But I think that's the real point, that it is not about, it's about you being yourself in that point of time. That you want to be protective, you are that, you will be that. You don't have to stop that part just because you have to portray a certain thing. That's the main thing. You don't have to play act or portray nothing. You are being yourself. Whatever emotion comes to you, whatever reaction comes to you, you're going to do that. And if you are doing it from the heart and you know that you are being impartial also at the same time, the energy we spoke about, life energy and everything, the energy that you will bring about you will maybe connect the other person to that aspect of it. Maybe that person hasn't considered this aspect, and what you brought in is actually something that that person would have done themselves. So you bring, maybe that connection will be a better connection because you're actually being able to reach a point which the other person maybe wanted to internally, subconsciously wanted to do, but you were the extension of that, and then maybe connected to something and it got resolved in a certain way. So I'm saying that don't even think about all this. You think about all that, and that is where the process will not go in the right way. Just be the person that you are. Look, we can't find another Lily. The person that you are, that is what you are bringing to the table. That is something. Okay, I'm saying table. It can be the tree also. These days I'm saying mediation tree. I'm not saying table. So that aspect is the important part. We can't find people like you, even if we go out and look for them. It's not, that is the difficult part. Everything else is simple. Just you being who you are. That's it. Nothing beyond that. Don't have to fall into any trap of, oh, this is how it's done, or that is. And why are we going here? We were supposed to be on the ego. Where we have gone?
No, actually, I mean, you say many things that I find very fascinating, and really they touch me personally, because this is ego again, because what you are saying is I should relax, get out of my cerebral head thinking, just be in that moment. But I have an insecure ego part that is afraid, oh, what if I say the wrong thing? Or what if I respond this way and then that causes them to react? So I have all these what ifs that are definitely insecurities. That is ego. And you're basically saying, let all that go. If you're in the moment and you're being your authentic, real self, and you did make a mistake, I'm going to call it a mistake, it isn't really a mistake. It's okay, because you're just being yourself, and you're being that true self will allow them to be more open. So everything you're saying is actually a lot of wisdom for me personally. And I think it completely has to do with ego. Absolutely.
But let me tell you, Lily, that the same thing will not apply to everyone, is because the first foundation, what I said, is the mindset, the heart, soul, spirituality aspect of it, what you bring. So this applies to you. If you are you, your authentic self is what is important. So if I say that to everyone, it might not be applicable. So it is the aspect of the mindset connected to that. I keep repeating this heart, soul, spirituality aspect of it because it's a very valuable part, which does not get discussed. That part of it can't be gauged. Look, I have my gauge. I will gauge the way I would. So that's why I'm saying what you bring in, that part of it, that whole package that you are, very important. Everyone doesn't have that hardware. And with that hardware is sitting there, being it what it is, everything around it with that energy that you bring in and everything will get managed. You would not have to think. But the moment you think, you are not, like I said, you're not letting the quantum computer do the processing. You are sitting with your calculator. Your calculator can never ever check what the quantum computer has done, because the quantum computer has taken so many things into account. If you're saying my experiences, it has taken your experiences into account. You don't have to now sit and do it. It's already there. It's all stored inside. That processing has happened. It's the output that is important, that whether you're going to let that output come out as the output, or I'm going to put a filter there. No, that filter is going to create the problem. So just let it flow, and everything will be managed around it.
Now, that all sounds really nice. It does. But I know, again, in my own personal experience, I mean, I have not always done well. So I'll tell another personal story. Another sibling and I, who think quite differently politically, during the last elections, the presidential elections, this individual liked to talk to me a lot about all the things that they heard on the news. They spent hours every night doing what they considered their research, but it was only one-sided news. So they told me about a news story about one of the people that were running for president. And so I did a lot of research on that. And next time we talked, I shared with them what I had learned, and they pretty much got angry at me and told me it was because I'm only listening to certain news. So I got angry back. So here's two individuals who are saying, you're only listening to certain news, you're only listening to certain news, and it didn't go well. And so we're really not in much contact, and it's been a couple of years now, and that's very sad. So that was my own, this is my own experience of a conflict that I feel I didn't handle well. And I don't really know that it was my insecure ego wanting to be right. It was that I felt I was bringing facts that they weren't listening to, but then they felt the same way. So what do you have to say about that? That was not a natural flow, and it didn't go well.
So I'll tell you what the situation with me is and how I manage this. I have stayed away from the news for the last almost more than 2 years. So I don't know what's happening. Of course, on a LinkedIn post, on a Facebook post, there might be something important happening. There's something happening in Ukraine and Russia and all of this. You read about that. Of course, those are things you'll get to know. So, okay, there's something happening. But otherwise, you stay away from it. Because with that mindset, to clutter it with, first of all, with all this, which is still information that someone else is putting out into the world, which you don't know what vested interests there are, whatever. It's just negativity. So I'm saying people with the mediator mindset first have to remove themselves of all negativity. So this discussion that you got into, it should not have happened. Because with my own wife, I mean, there are certain times when she's wanting to tell me about what's happening in terms of the news, and I don't let her. So it doesn't connect. It has no relevance for me at all. Because these are such minor issues if you look at it, because obviously the news must be making it into some big thing. Okay, this is happening, which if you actually step back and you look at it, what are they really talking about? Why am I concerned with it also? So it takes a lot of conscious effort to stay away from this negativity. And that is where the mindset develops, that the whole, everything else that you bring in, all that internal evolution, because evolution, I keep talking about evolution. So that evolution will keep taking place. But that is if you give it space to evolve. But if that all that negativity that is hitting you from all over to in some way curtail that evolution, we have to be able to put it aside. And that, of course, I mean, it also depends on even the matters that you are brought into. There are certain things that negativity might have touched you in some way. If that negativity has touched you and some processing has happened, we don't know how has that affected you. So negativity to be removed totally, we don't need it. Some people in this world have to just stay away from it. Some people maybe need it on as a daily dose. We don't. So Lily, no getting into these discussions at all.
So yes, I agree with you completely about that. And so I have noticed for the past couple of years, I am limiting my interaction with certain people because they are closed. There is a lot of insecure ego going on, and it's not helpful. They're not going to be interested in an open dialogue. I think it was Henry, or it might have been Ken Cloke, mentioned in one of the talks about the concept of debate. And debate really is about proving you're right. And that's not an open dialogue. So a lot of the people in my life that are very adamant about certain things, they do want to debate, and it's not an open dialogue. So I think that you've really made it clear, if there's the negativity going on, I just have to remove myself from it. And I am having less interactions, and that makes me sad because these are people that I care about. But if the interactions end up negative, then what's the point? And it's not helping me. And I think that you also mentioned that negativity that's there then becomes sort of internalized, and then I have to do a lot of work to remove it. So I think it is something where we do sometimes have to limit who we're around. And again, that has to do with ego. If they're not open, I mean, to me, insecure ego is closed and a secure ego is open. That's the way that I pretty much see it in a nutshell.
Absolutely. But what I'm saying is that, look, there are certain things which are debated. Debate might be a good thing, but does everything have to be debated? First of all, the other things, are you supposed to participate in every debate in this world? then I think then your self-development and your evolution will have to stop for the next few hundreds of years, and then you'll have to participate in all the debates. You can't be part of all that, because look, these are things to engage people, because you have to keep people engaged. Otherwise, if you don't keep them engaged, and the whole divide and rule policy that goes around, that's the colonizers' way of ruling. A colony cannot be ruled if you don't divide and rule, because there's so many people and you have such a small colonizers, whatever government or whatever their administration that runs it. So that's the divide and rule, which has gone into the psyche of people. That's what they do. So to divide and rule, you will create these issues and these debates, as you call it, which are so petty sometimes. It's, I mean, like I said, if you move back from it and you have a bird's eye view on what's happening, so what are they really doing? What are they really talking about? Why are they even engaging in it? So I keep saying that, look, you don't have to engage with everything that's happening. And I give that example of the pig wrestling with the pig. You wrestle with the pig is going to drag you into the mud. You will get dirty, and the pig is going to enjoy it. Don't get dragged into everything that someone wants to drag you into. It's the easiest thing to do. Oh, let me also get into it. No, you have to have an objective thing. I'm saying for me, it's the people with the mediator mindset. I'm very, in a way, protective about them, because that negativity, if it comes in, that mindset gets affected. And the world has its way of bringing in a lot of negativity from various ways. I mean, look at social media. The whole concept, the algorithm, like they say, works around that you look at some aspect, which could be a negative aspect, you will be shown different things connected to that negative part, and that'll keep ballooning into larger things. So like someone was, I mean, there was some interview, someone was saying, CNN and Fox News. Someone who watches CNN lives in a different world. Someone who watches Fox News lives in a different world. So in the same country, there are different worlds created by people. There might be another third world, fourth world. I don't know how many worlds. It's all created by people. So which world is the world that you want to be part of? Why? I mean, that's created for you and based on what you want to hear. So you want to hear this, so let's give you only this, and now you come into this world, and the other world, oh, you don't want to hear all that. So that's a world that is someone you would have negative thoughts on, or negative things about people. So that's the way, that's where people are benefiting, and that's their job to do. We don't have to fall into that trap. So that's the important thing. That's why I'm keeping you away. What is the issue, Lily? Let's now start with 1 month. No news for 1 month. Start there. Look, to get to 2 years, obviously it was on a day-to-day basis. It was obviously all that is happening around you, and my wife definitely is looking at what's happening in terms of things. But I've stayed away. So it's not so difficult to do. And once you do that, I'm telling you, it might be. I keep saying, okay, this is my bubble. I live in my bubble. But that bubble is also a world. Why is this not is it not a world? That's that other person's world have to be the only world. I'm creating my world. The people I connect to, I don't have to connect to everyone in the world. There are 8 billion people. It'll take me, I don't know how many lives to connect to everyone. I can't do it. So this is also a world. And if Lily is in that world, her thought process is someone's thought process. So we don't have to say that every thought process in the world we have to connect to. That's you think that this person is someone you want to connect to, and that's what you do. So it's a conscious effort to create a world around yourself, not the world that someone else is creating and become part of that. You can create your own world, and that is a world. It's not something that is not a world. It is a world. I call it a bubble only to so that people don't say it's a bubble. I say it myself that it's a bubble, but that is a world to live in. Why not?
And I did the same thing back in 2003 when the US went to war. I couldn't deal with that. So I quit listening or watching or reading the news for years, for probably 2, 3, 4 years. So I certainly understand. And so you feel that this is benefiting you because that the news is just a negative thing that's not helping you.
Yeah, and what I'm trying to do is, look, one is to be able to cut yourself off and say that you are living a hermit's life and you're not. I'm doing the other thing. What I've understood is that if we have to change it, we have to change this whole narrative in the world. The people who are out there, again, Mediator Mindset, those people out there are fair, equitable, just, impartial people. Now, if we can identify those people in every corner of the world, in every village of the world, if we can identify those people, and of course, the communities, we tell the communities to value these people, then the process that goes around it to value that process. When we bring these people out there, which is what that discussion on mediators as leaders and leaders and mediators, we had that discussion. And of course, with Sarah in the symposium on heart, soul, spirituality, you can watch that part also. So we were talking about that part. So if we can actually bring these people out there and they become your leaders, then all that, the narrative around you will change. And then you might want to be part of those discussions, because there'll be healthy discussions. There'll be discussions which are reaching somewhere. They're not dividing, they're bringing people together. So I'm working on that. So I'm not saying that I'm just saying, oh, I'm cutting off and I'm now, this is my life and I will come and sermonize to people. No, I'm not sermonizing to anyone or anything. So I'm just telling people in terms of my experience. And I want people to obviously come together on the larger purpose. So once you've disconnected from all that, negativity is gone, and you're looking at people and the world from a positive perspective, that's when you start changing things, because you know that that positivity exists. To know that, first of all, you have to bring yourself out of the negativity. So it's in stages. There's no hurry. I mean, what is the hurry? Life is going on.
Well, I'm glad we segued to this, because I did want to ask you about this, because you've mentioned it numerous times. And I'm very, very curious. I want the same outcome that you do, but I'm curious, how can we get the world we live in to value this mediator mindset to the point where it becomes the way that we solve our problems? How are we going to do that? Do you...
Look, by actually letting people identify those people, because they know all the qualities, all the good things about what they're looking for, and to be able to put a name to those qualities. One is, we generally talk about that people should be like this, and they should have these nice things to say and nice things to do. But instead, if you ask them about those individuals, I only ask them in terms of who can help you resolve your dispute, because I'm focused on the mediation part of it. So they tell you, it takes a little bit of time to like I said, the differentiation between peacemaker and mediator. First, that differentiation needs to be made. So it's a conversation. It don't happen. It starts with a basic sentence, but then the conversation has to happen. So once they can actually understand what we're talking about, and then that individual comes in their mind, and then when you ask them about the individual, they will tell you everything, all those good things that they have seen. They've seen that aspect in those people. So those people exist. You find out now these people exist. Once they can connect to that person, and it's not someone that has been thrown on them as to, oh, this is the kind of person that you have to look at and idealize. No, you already know those people. So once it starts from there, and then connecting them to those people, and to be able to also at the same time, that whole community that has got, I mean, of course, the whole structuring of the world and the communities has changed over time. So you will also, maybe those peacemakers will have to maybe bring the communities together also. So you have to create that whole ownership of communities. Then these people will also do it, those people with that mediator mindset, if they connect to them. So it's going to be a lot of things which will happen. I mean, it's not going to happen simply, but I'm doing it on an experimental basis, because my attempt is and was that other people should get involved. And I know that this experiment worked, and I know that these people exist, and I've had those conversations, so that that people can take that forward. If I'm telling you what I'm telling you is because I've already tried it out. I've gone out, spoken to people, and they've identified. So now for me, I'm at that point when either I say, no, I have to do it alone, is because I don't see people either finding time, because either people with the mediator mindset, because they're not valued, they have to do so many other things for their livelihood, that they will not find time for this. If that's one way, not a problem. If it takes time for other people to get involved, not a problem. I'll take it forward. So now earlier it was my 1,000 reach 1,000. That was when I started off. So I said, we'll have 1 million people connected. So but my 1,000 don't have time to reach out to 1,000. So now if I have to reach 1 million, that's a different or totally different level. And then you have to look at social media and mass media and all those things, which I live in my little bubble, my little corner. I'm happy looking at the process and how it has to be taken forward and other people take it forward. But then if I have to do that, then we'll have to find ways to do that. So I'm at that point right now. So this conference gets over. Of course, I'm already thinking about it, but maybe that structure I'm not putting, maybe I might not put out right now and put it after the conference. So structure is in my mind. So now to take that forward. That's how it is. But Lily, why are we moving away from the ego and mediation?
Well, I feel like I've said what I wanted to say about the ego, and like I said, I'm glad that we segued to this concept of and I like that you say creating the community. I am very curious about that, and really you're creating this because you have done so many of these discussions. I mean, I'm now connecting with some of these people I didn't know before. So you're creating this on some level for me personally, and probably for other people, where maybe we will have a international community where, again, like I said, I won't feel so alone in my mediator mindset, that I know that there's lots of others out there. But also, before we end, I am a little curious, because you've mentioned this before also, the peace. What are the two words you have? Mediators and peacemakers. What are the two things you differentiate?
Yeah. But at some point of time, if you do find time, I know you're a very busy woman, but if you do find time, just type out on Google, right? mediatorvikram.com. Okay.
Yeah, no, I have gone there. And
maybe if you type, if you do mediator, also maybe it will come. That's all you do. In that, I've actually put a section down on this. In that, on the website, on the fact of join the dispute resolution revolution, and I've said as a mediator and what I've written about the mediator, and you fit into that perfectly. And let me read it out to you, because definitely Lily is a busy woman. She's not going to find time. So let me put it out right here, because we are in that discussion right now. So let us see what the website has to show us. Okay. I even put my physical location there. So I exist. I'm not a bot. Okay, the support. I mean, of course, you can go to the playlist here. So this join the dispute resolution revolution. Okay. Of course, I mean, so you should read it. I've already put it down there. I actually put out whatever that thought I comes, I put it there. So you don't even have to ask me. It's a very simple thought. There's nothing complex about it. No special qualification, training, or experience is required. All you need is a mediator mindset. That's all. This mediator, the collective word might change now. That's the new thought process, that the structure that I'm creating, this might change. But there will be mediators and peacemakers.
Okay, I will look at that, and that will clarify it for me, I think.
Yeah.
But yes, I have actually gone to your YouTube, and I've been watching numerous ones. I do want to go to the Heart, Soul, Spirituality one. And the one that's a beautiful mind, is that just one thing, or is it a group of videos?
Look, it's a show. I call that a show.
Okay.
So in conversation with a beautiful mind, the idea was, and how it started was that I was speaking to someone about mediation. I said, do you know about mediation? I said, I know about, I've heard the word, but I don't know who a mediator is. I can't put a face to a mediator. But now that you've spoken to me, now I can put a face to a mediator. So I said, there is no face to a mediator out there. Let's have conversations with people with the mediator mindset. Let's put them out there. And like I said, I mean, I always keep saying they're wonderful people. I mean, when people should, of course, you have to bring the people I feel who have the mindset. These are people that I am identifying. So I have those conversations with them, which are general conversations. So the idea is to know them, their thought process on a general basis. So it's not an issue-based thing or anything like that. The conversation is an organic conversation. And so that was that series. So there'll be so many people there. I think how many? The 40 plus, I think 40 plus episodes of that.
And how did you find those people?
This is what I did. How did I find you? How did you come in? I don't know.
On LinkedIn, you found me.
Exactly. So how that connection happens, I mean, it's just, yeah, of course, I mean, if the webinar, sometimes you attend a webinar and you hear someone talk. So it's because you have to get to know the person in sometimes only maybe one sentence or 5 sentences they speak. Sometimes you look at them, I look at pictures, and sometimes you have to read people from their pictures. The various things you have to do, because it is very clear that the people that I bring out as people whom I feel have the mediator mindset. Let's look at, of course, individuals that you are saying in conversation with beautiful mind. Of course, let's just look at it from the larger perspective. Look at Ken Cloke. That is someone who, for me, represents mediators in the world as a person. So it is very clear that's everything. So all these shows and everything are things which I do with him, because people should know that this is what a mediator is as a person, first of all. So I tell him also, and you've heard me, I don't know whether you saw the inaugural address of the conference. I don't read what he writes. So it's about him as the person, the beautiful soul that he is. That is the most important part. Everything else falls around it. But
So it's funny that you bring him up, because I was going to bring this up. I wanted to ask you. So I know that you don't read him. So how did you find him? Where did all that start?
It was a webinar I attended, and I was introduced to him, and something just connected with him. I just said that, like I said, that beautiful soul. People maybe don't understand it. Look, these are things that I talk about, and I have to be able to explain that to someone. How do you? It's not reading something. It's just connection. It's not anything else. It's a connection that you can feel and understand about that person, and that is what it is all about. Beyond that, everything else, like I said, falls into place. That's how it is. So,
well, that's exciting, because I didn't know who Ken Cloke was until you introduced him before I even watched the first conference. You had said who he was, and so then I Googled who he was, and I had never heard of him. So that was really fun to get to know Ken and hear him speak. I did look into his books. They're very, very, very thick. So I might do the Vikram thing and just look at some of the talks that he's done.
Exactly. Get the words of wisdom. That's all that matters. And just the fact that you have to know that people like that exist. That is what's the important part.
Yeah, and just to wrap up this talk on ego, Ken Cloke, in being able to watch him that day, is obviously the opposite of what I'm talking about with the insecure ego, because he's very secure in his own intrinsic worth and a very gentle soul, shall we say. And I mentioned this at one of the other discussions we had. At the end of his little presentation that first day of the conference, he said, let's open it up to questions. And you can disagree with everything that I just said. That's just so remarkable. That's an open person who's very secure and wants to grow and learn and have a discussion about things. So that was great. That was really fun. Exactly. Thank you for all you're doing, because it's needed and it's helping us feel more connected. And I think that can be empowering to help this sort of mediation, peaceful, collective thing move forward.
Great. Hopefully. So thank you very much for connecting with the whole thing, against all that resistance that you had about not wanting to be part of it for whatever reason you felt, that qualification part of it. So that's all out. And this is what the message that has to go out to everyone. Please don't fall into this whole qualification trap and everything. You have it. You have the mediator mindset. And I just showed you, I put it on my website. People might not go there, but it's all there. And that's all that's required. That's all that is required. So thank you very much. So in terms of concluding it, we have a person as a mediator. You just gave an example of Ken Cloke, the person where the ego doesn't play a part at all. So that, of course, we have an example of, and then in terms of the parties and how to connect and all that. It's a starting point in a discussion. We'll have further discussions on this. So the idea behind the conference and the topics was, let's just start a conversation, and then whatever we feel that we need more discussions on, we create that over the year up to the next one, and we celebrate Ken's birthday next year. Again, we start the conference on 18th May. So that's how it is. So thank you very much, Lily.
Thank
Wonderful
you.
talking
Thank
to
you,
you.
Vikram.
Always a pleasure
Wonderful.
talking to you, and always a pleasure having you in the sessions. So let me just cut the recording.